Welcome everybody to Transform 2025. It is Tuesday, it is day one. I'm thrilled to be back here at the Win. I'm thrilled to be here at Transform. And a big shout out to our friends at Greenhouse for bringing the podcast to you live for the next 2 days. We have a jam-packed lineup of incredible thought leaders, executives, speakers in the space of HR and TA tech. So let's get to it. Day one, everybody, let's go. Welcome everybody to Transform Day One. First day, first guest, Mr. Brett Coyne. How you doing, man?
Good, what's happening? Thanks for having me.
Brett is the Chief Transformation Officer at Findem. Tell us what you guys do over there.
Yeah, so very interesting. I was a longtime practitioner, went vendor because of what Findem's doing. So at the highest level, AI first, talent acquisition, multi-channel sourcing, CRM, and analytics.
Interesting. So how is that different than what, if I look around here?
Yeah.
I mean, I could literally take my phone and throw it and hit a company that does something similar.
Yeah.
How are you guys different?
Yeah, I'd say
I do want to throw my phone at a couple of companies here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think they think they're doing something similar. A lot of people are focused on sourcing, but what we uncovered about a decade ago at Intuit was biggest piece of data that people don't pay attention to is their source of hire data. People report on it, they don't do anything about it. And so what we started doing there, and then when I went to Okta, really took it to the next level, is how do you create a proactive way to source in all those channels? So perfect example. What are recruiters always doing? Waiting for people to come to them.
We are
waiting.
We're
Right?
lead magnets, but we shouldn't be. We should be go out there getting them, fishing.
Yeah, but we love the cold leads. Love them, right? We don't want the Glengarry leads, the warm leads, right? We want to find the people who are impossible to find. What we often don't know is we already have access to them. They're in our ATS. They've applied to a job. They know somebody at the company. So Findem's AI proactively tells you how to get to that person through a warm lead.
Interesting. And we need to hit the pause button here for a second, folks. The ATS platforms that most companies have are a gold mine of candidates.
That's right.
Why? And I'm a practitioner. You were a practitioner. I'm a recruiter by trade.
Yeah.
Go back to the well, man. These are candidates that were interested. Well, let's talk about it first, guys. Little shop talk here.
Yeah.
When you have a role, 99% of the time you're making one hire.
That's right.
That means there's qualified candidates that make it through the process, but only one person can get hired. You have all these other candidates that were interested in your organization. They were pre-qualified up to a certain point of the interview process where you may not have to repeat that.
That's right. Yeah, I think
So why do so many companies go back to the well?
Because they can't
go back to the well.
Because they can't search their ATS.
Okay.
So that's been a problem forever. And as a leader, the challenge was I didn't want to spend money driving traffic on paid media to know that my recruiters would look at 20 candidates of the 600 applicants, disposition, everything goes into the ATS, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, now I got to go back and spend money on outbound sourcing tools. We ran an experiment at Intuit. We put a couple recruiters in a box for like 2 weeks and said,
like you locked them in a room?
Pretty much in a room.
That would make the best
Yes.
Melinda, reality TV show idea. We're going to lock recruiters in a room. Yeah.
Not allowed out, 24/7. And we said, track on a spreadsheet every candidate you find on another sourcing platform that we all know.
Right.
Cross-reference our ATS. We had 7 out of 10. Problem was we couldn't find them. Findem extracts all that, also takes their data and updates their profile to the latest and greatest. So if I apply 5 years ago, it'll pull in my newest stuff, match me to current jobs.
That is an important point.
Very important.
Because when you're looking at candidates, let's just say somebody applied for a manager role and now it's 3 or 4 years later, they're in a director role. So they may be a senior director level or maybe VP level. I'm just giving you an example here. But they may get overlooked because you're only looking at them from 4 or 5 years ago.
That's right. Or recruiters have to manually go look them up somewhere else.
Right. Cross-reference LinkedIn.
Yeah, how do you remove that manual work, AI, automation, automated workflows, boom. Click of a mouse, you have their latest. We used to do this on spreadsheets.
Google Docs, whatever. Yeah. So I told you we weren't going to talk about AI.
Yeah.
Fooled you. We're actually going to talk about AI for a second here. Let's nerd out for a second here. I don't want to, what is the AI specifically doing without giving away the trade secrets? Yeah. What is it looking for? How are the parameters set? What prompts are you putting in to find the right person calibrated at the right level?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Findem and why I went there, I never saw a company doing these things. Again, multi-channel sourcing, proactively help you, database, inbound, alumni. They used to work here. How do we know where they are, what they're doing now, invite them back, right? But the AI goes out, applies your search to over 100,000 public data sets and builds what we call a 3-dimensional profile. 1 dimension is a resume. 3D, a great example is, I'm an engineer, here's my resume. We'll take that and we'll cross-reference GitHub and we'll pull all of their code bases and put them together in a profile. So with 1 click, you can show the hiring manager immediately what
Show
code,
them what they're doing, what they
what
did.
they're doing. Here's their code out there on the managers usually ask for that anyway, and they go manually chase it down. We put it all in one place, one click, done.
So what's interesting, and we're going to nerd out here, we're going to go deep on here. I find that when candidates, either if they're tech and they're using GitHub or if they're creative and using their own portfolio, they're not always able to show their latest or greatest work. They're not under NDAs or, for whatever reason, they can't share the work that they're working on. And I try to tell hiring managers, don't judge them exclusively on that. What are your thoughts? How can a candidate best represent themselves on the tech side?
Yeah, selfishly, I think the Findem profile is like the most amazing thing I've seen. So how can a tech person best represent themselves? I don't think I really understand where you're going with that.
Well, it's a tough one. So I think if you're on the job search as a tech candidate and you can't show, you can't show everything there, are there other ways that you could showcase what you're able to do? Like, are there ways that they could put, and anything interesting that you're seeing out there that tech candidates are doing?
Honestly, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on the candidate side that people are doing that's so different than what they've done historically. I think where we are, though, again, the differentiator is if you have the right technology on the corporate or the agency side, you can extract the right data on a candidate that they're not going to put in their resume.
Got it.
Right? Yeah.
So let's talk about workflow a little bit and efficiency here. How have you seen from a metric standpoint, this has decreased time to hire and made recruiters more efficient?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of time to hire as a good key performance indicator because
so many X factors.
30 years, right? It's hovering around 60 days. You can move it down, but you're going to max out at a certain point. The reason I think time to hire is important is it's the biggest input to planning. So as a leader, if I know you need the role filled in Q3 and I look at time to fill on average plus notice periods in country, all I need to know is all I have to do is make sure the rec's open at the right point in time.
Well, I think how long the rec is open is, there's similar. Yeah. Rec open, there's a lot of factors that I think have to first look at. Companies need to put the mirror in front of themselves first.
For sure.
Is it internal issues? Are you not having the right recruiters on it? Are they not trained on it? I could literally sit here for the next hour and name all the X factors there, but you need to have certain metrics. What's your favorite TA metric?
Source of hire. Source of hire data.
Break down the math. What does it look like?
Yeah, so most companies.
What's the formula look like?
Yeah, so source of hire, if you run a report at most companies, right, this is what we find across our entire customer base, and this was consistent anywhere I worked. 20 to 30% from referrals, 5% usually contractor conversions, bigger company, 5 to 10% university hiring conversions, 15, 20% inbound apps going through them, right? 5% searching your database, it's really hard. And then there's a culmination of things like to make up the other bucket, which is really hard to track. Paid media, job boards, right? The reason I like that is I want to be in control. Most recruiters are not in control. They're sitting back, waiting for everybody to come to them.
They're reactive.
They're reactive. And then what do? When they don't get what they want, they go proactively write Booleans all day and hope people respond to them, right? If you can give them a way to take all of those source of hires and say, we're going to set goals. We want to move referrals from 20 to 30, alumni from 2 to 10, so on and so forth. You build strategies in those channels. You can almost completely decrease your need for outbound sourcing, which is the most expensive tool set out there.
Time-consuming.
Most time-consuming. And we are about to release a new aggregate data set across all of our clients, which we do allow you to proactively source all these channels. We now, for the first time, have data that shows everybody's doing it wrong. External outbound sourcing is the last place you should be spending your time. Why? Response rates, responded interested, and conversion are by far the lowest of all the key channels.
You already have folks that are raising their hand that have been through the process. What? Yeah. Why is this so duh? Why is this like a dumb moment? Why are companies not utilizing it?
I'd say some people are. I think it's a dumb moment for, I'd say, 80% of the market. I think the key to unlocking that is you have to have a really good, I'll step back for 1 second. Stop running TA like TA. Start running TA like a sales and marketing business.
Yes.
Because what the sales team would do is they would make sure all those cultivated leads had a nurture strategy, right? Mm-hmm. So the underutilization of CRM and what CRM and marketing automation really means in TA is not fully prevalent in many of our clients, I will tell you. Building highly strategic, intentional, diverse talent pools and actually having a multi-channel nurture strategy as a lever to complete that process of ready, Now, get them hired, ready later.
It's pipeline management.
Yeah, not a fit. Get them in the pool, right? Nurture, they come back and become an active
Well,
candidate.
let's talk about this for a little bit because I find this fascinating.
Me too.
You have I bet.
We did it at Okta. It was
You have a
mind-blowing.
talent pool here.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't apply for the job. Maybe there's a similar job, maybe not right now, maybe then. Is that all automated where as soon as that new rec goes into the system, Findem's tech lays over it or embedded within the platform and says, hey, Adam, we saw that you applied 2 years ago to this product manager role. We have a senior director role that you might be perfect for.
Yeah.
We'd love to see if you're interested. Is that all automated?
So that's not today.
Did I
That's
just invent
definitely
that?
that's definitely on the table. Like I would see that as more of a recommendation engine, right? So yeah, so we would love to automate that workflow because I agree with you. It's like, and look, when you tie it back to like candidate NPS, the thing, you wear the talent board, right, to do the candidate NPS. The biggest thing those guys taught us years ago was like offer, accept, and candidate experience go hand in hand. The almost, I don't remember, it's the top, second, or the third thing. All people want is they want to know what is my status, even if it's negative.
They just want
Get
to
back to
know.
them.
It is
Right.
it is an information.
Right.
All right, bro, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Candidate experience, listen, last year when I was at Transform, all we talked about was AI. AI, EIEO.
Yeah.
And it was nauseating because I think half the companies had no clue what they were talking about. They were just slapping an AI sticker onto. But now we're talking about candidate experience. When are companies going to realize how damn critical it is and the cost of a bad candidate experience?
Yeah.
I have seen, as I mentioned, in the trenches recruiter, you get a candidate to the finish line and they just say no. And you know why? Because they had a real shitty experience.
That's right.
And that represents you as a company.
That's right.
We could do better. Where do you see all those fail? Let's do a couple of fail points. A couple, not all of them.
Yeah, they can happen everywhere. I think the biggest fail point is in the application process because, again, there's not a lot of technology until now, I think, to really help sort through applications. And so it's really hard. I mean, I used to carry rec loads. You get 300, 400, 500, and now sometimes 1,000. I'm hearing 2,000 applications for some G&A jobs. You cannot go through them one at a time.
No.
People are going to get upset, right? So I think more and more companies have to adopt AI to help them with that productivity gain. Quickly know who's not a fit. Get them a message, right?
Immediately message them. And again, it goes back to your
Immediately
point of
message.
information, which is candidate experience.
That's right. But once you get them into the process, I mean, I like to break down every single step and measure time in stage. So you have to mention time to
Time
fill.
and stage is important.
Time in stage is really
And you
important.
can see it when your pipeline is laid out.
That's right. And you can see where the biggest gaps are in your process. And where I found it usually is the interview scheduling experience, usually because hiring teams aren't available. So you have to go educate and coach your hiring teams how to create a great experience. And when we did at Okta, talk about impact, offer accept rate in technical roles when I got there was high 50%. We put a massive focus on candidate experience every step of the process, got that offer accept up to over 80%.
That's
so think
fantastic.
about how much work we didn't have to do for that conversion rate. And then we would reward hiring managers who created great experiences to reinforce the behavior.
What I like to say is sourcing, screening, and scheduling can now all be automated for most jobs, most low and mid jobs. I'm also seeing great innovation in this space when it comes to mostly tech roles, where that initial interview, where you're taking their vital signs, when you're taking some initial intake, can be automated with different chat bots and even video bots too. And here's the best part. It could be done 24/7 on someone's schedule. Now you're decreasing that initial stage. So when the candidate comes to me as a recruiter, I'm able to have this one-on-one human conversation.
That's right.
I'm able to get to the crux of it. And decision makers, CFOs out there, there is a dollar sign attached to this.
That's right.
Some tools for hiring leadership to talk to their financial side. How do you best present the case?
Okay. Yeah, there are two pieces in there. We're not in the scheduling business, but I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying in general. That's where I see great innovation in the automation.
No, me too. I think it's great. I think it's great for lower level, like higher level exec. You're not going to get them
Exec
to,
search is still a high human touch.
Try. Your question was around tools to take to. So if I'm a TA leader,
Right. How do I champion this technology to? A lot of times,
Yeah,
well, it's a much
yeah.
bigger conversation where companies don't equate people to being a profit center, right? But where they see us as a cost center, now we're just being a cost. Now Brett's just coming to me with another tool that they need.
So I would say, like, to step back, I think that's irresponsible of anyone to do that. So I think if you're going to ask for money, you better have a strategy. And I like to think of it as top, middle, bottom of the funnel. And what are the experiences you're trying to create through that process? And how are you going to make intelligent tech decisions to instrument a great experience? It's going to drive higher conversion. So when I step back and think about like, what do I owe my CHRO? What do I owe the CFO? I owe them a really tight capacity model. Start there. What is the output I'm going to get from every recruiter by function, by geo around the world? And that's my baseline. And then the decisions I'm going to make and I'm going to present to them have to come with the expectation I have is by making this investment, I will over time be able to get more output. So I'll be asking you for fewer resources as we scale.
Yes.
And then you have to revisit that every, I'd say 6 to 12 months. Every quarter is not fair. You need 6 months for the throughput. But that's what I like to talk to some of our clients about is if you're not looking at your tech stack as a way to increase productivity, it's not fair for you to ask to spend on tools if you're not going to decrease your headcount. Right?
There has to be
a marriage of those two.
To that.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's talk leadership for a little bit. You've gotten to a point in your career where now you're mentoring, junior leaders up there.
Yeah.
Where do you see the biggest leadership gap right now? Is it training the folks on the up, that are coming up there? Where are you seeing this gap, and how are you working with your team to train them, especially focus in the TA space?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, look, this is not a knock on staffing agencies, but my experience has been probably not first time agency, first time job. I think looking back over 25 years, there's such a need in the agencies to quickly get people in, train them. The way they train and recognize and reward people is to find the candidate. That's how you get paid.
It's the end of the day, it's a product.
When you transition into the corporate world and you ask hiring managers, do you care who found the candidate? 100% of them will say no. So breaking that mindset, and that to me leads to low productivity because it's about me. It's not about you, it's about us. If we have to fill 50 sales roles and you fill 20 and everyone else fills one, we didn't hit the goal. How do we work together to hit the number, right? That's, I think, the most important thing. So I try to talk to them about this multi-channel ecosystem. How are you going to fill your funnel? You cannot mathematically do it with everybody just sourcing outbound candidates.
No.
You can't do it, right? Especially as you're scaling. So trying to teach them how to change that mindset from, I have to find a candidate to let the ecosystem work for me and put proactive strategies like a chief revenue officer would not invest the most amount of their technology spend in an outbound lead generation tool that gets 10% response rates.
No way. They're going to throw you out.
They'd lose their job. But TA leaders do it all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
As a people leader in the people space, what's keeping you up at night these days?
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
As a people leader in the people space, what is keeping you up at night these days?
Change management. I think change management, it's an easy word to say, and people talk about it.
Unbuzz the buzzword, Brett.
So I'll unbuzz the buzzword. You have to be intentional. You have to understand what actually needs to happen. And one of the things that we did at Findem that I'm very proud of, our adoption was low when I got there. So change management, getting people to break that mindset. So we built a practitioner first post-sales organization. So of talent ops people, early career recruiters who then became CSMs who understand and can talk the talk. So when we show up and someone signs a deal, we say, listen, we're going to take you through this experience. Here's specifically where the change management challenges are with 90% of our customers. Here's what we're doing about it. And we've thought about the post-sales process practitioner first, because when I was buying and using tools, I was really never pleased with the experience. So we've rethought and re-instrumented that experience for clients. Adoption is an all-time high, logo retention all-time high. So I don't know how much time we have, but I think all practitioners should go work for vendors for 2 years. We will do a lot for the vendors, and we will learn so much about how to be a better practitioner.
You should do an externship within companies and get them over there. Well, Brett, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Let's leave everybody with your intention for the space. If you want to throw one intention out, where you want to see this whole industry go, a positive thought, where should we be moving this industry forward? What are we missing?
I feel like I need to drop a big one here.
Yeah, that's how we close big.
Yeah, I think every TA leader needs to think like a chief revenue officer. And if they take that mindset and they show up with finance and their leaders in their company, the trickle-down effect will be amazing, because you would organize, you would hire different people, you would buy different tech stacks to operate that way.
I love it.
We decide to do it our way. I don't know if it's the right way.
Yeah, and you got to test and learn. You keep experimenting, folks. try things, champion your people,
Experiment,
champion your products. Brett Cohen, thank you so much for being my first guest and joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Enjoyable. I love Greenhouse, by the way.
Shout out to Greenhouse. Welcome back. I'm with my buddy Mike Staffy from Erin. First time, long time, actually second time. Actually, I know this guy pretty well. We've done this dance
We're
before.
buddies. You said buddy.
We are buddies.
You put a label on it.
No, we are
Thank
buddies.
you. Thank you.
We're friends, we're partners, we're clients, all of the above. We hang, someone that I deeply admire, not just as a friend, but also as a business owner. I've been watching for the past year firsthand what you guys are building, and it's exciting. The ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of being a business owner, seeing the good times, seeing the struggles there. We're going to get to the struggles in a moment here. But for everyone out there that does not know you, tell us who you are and what you guys do over there.
I like this intro. This is good. I should do this more often. Mike Staffy, Erin is an employee referral platform. So we help businesses automate everything from referral to payment and everything in between.
How is your product going to put recruiters like me out of business?
Well,
It's funny you say that.
we're not going to put the good recruiters out of business.
Or
So the
mediocre
good-
at best.
Mediocre, gone. No, I'm just
We
kidding.
could talk about that later.
So it's a good question. We don't put recruiters out of business. What we do is we help good recruiters find the right candidate. So the cool thing about employee referrals is that universally, whether you're using a platform like us or not, recruiters like referrals, right? It's much higher conversion rate, much more cost effective, and much faster, right? So I think we just amplify good recruiters.
Well, if anybody's really interested to find out more about what they did, they could go back to our episode that we did a year ago at Transform. We're going to link that up. But let's lift up the hood. Let's go deep on this one here. I don't want to talk sales. I want to talk enterprise sales. You look around this conference room, there's buyers, there's sellers, there's a whole bunch of it. What is happening right now in the enterprise world? Are companies open to buying with this economy, with this regime in power right now?
For sure. Well, no, look, I think change is happening, right? Good or bad, that's not the topic. Change is happening, though. And the one really important thing is that when change happens, that does not necessarily accelerate enterprise buying. So you get a much more cautious buyer. Not necessarily that they're not going to grow or that they're going to shrink. They're just waiting for things to settle down, right? So
I feel like we've been waiting for things to settle down for like 10 years.
2 years, right?
10.
Shit was not settling down in 22. Like it was on fire, right? However, you did see that go from 21, obviously white hot, 22, almost as good. 23, 24, things slowed down dramatically. You had banks collapse. I mean, the largest bank.
Look at SVB.
Yeah, the largest bank, and I know because we were part of it. The largest bank collapse since 2009, and it was bigger than like 25 banks that collapsed in 2009.
I don't think people realize the scale from a financial impact.
It was insane, right?
It was crazy.
And when that happened, you had a lot of people pumping the brakes. However, there's still a few trends happening. One, healthcare was accelerated dramatically, right? The other side is that you had kind of more thoughtful intentions, right? So again, not that people pumped the brakes, they're like, hey, we're not sure what's gonna happen. And at the same time, the stock market was going through the roof. So you have all these things happening, a cautious market with, honestly, just
buyers.
an economy that was rewarded for what was happening. And then you fast forward to now, you have a stock market that may not be as strong. We're not sure yet. We're not sure.
It is just a crapshoot. Every single day that I look at the ticker.
Well, I mean, we're down. We lost $5 trillion in the last 4 weeks, but could just be a little dip. Buy the dip. Don't buy the dip.
I only buy the dip in Bitcoin.
But I think all of that comes together now. So what you saw is a cautious market for 2 years with a white hot stock market. Now you have a potentially not white hot stock market. And maybe not, like that caution's not going to necessarily go away, right?
So we just talked macro there. Let's bring it down to the micro level. We're talking about buying tech tools. How do you empower the champions within the organizations that you're selling to for them to champion to the decision makers to pull the trigger?
100%. Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm glad. I'm
modest
glad you
over here.
that. I'll tell you, when you have the right pieces in place, that's exactly what you want to do. But you can't force that, right? Meaning, you have to have some motive. Like that person either wants to get promoted, or they want to make their company better, or they have an initiative
Or
that
they see the
they're
financial
embracing.
impact of a product like yours is going to make in their organization.
Yeah. So like they need to have some motive other than just like buy my things and you'll be good, right? But when you have some motive and then you truly partner with your customer to understand their problems, there's usually one North Star that they're trying to reach, which is, hey, if you decrease turnover by 5%, we're going to be golden. Or if you cut our time to hire in half, we're going to be golden. So those are the things you really need to find out, like what is important to them, what is important to the business, and then you need to partner with them on it. Like just because you buy tech does not mean it's going to magically go away. You have to actually be.
Let's have a fun little chat about this. I call this the shiny object syndrome. CMO, the CEO, the CFO, they're like, we're having problems with our hiring pipeline, our sourcing, our screening, our recruiters, everything sucks. We need to go out there and find a tool that automates this. And they go out there and they allocate budget and they go buy this shiny object, and then they don't know how to implement it or use it. It's like me going out and buying a Ferrari, but I don't know how to drive manual cars. Now I have this beautiful car sitting in my driveway.
Is that true? You don't know.
Well, we can talk about that afterwards. We have to up my rate a little bit. But how does a company like Aaron, once a company purchases the Aaron product, what is the best practices that you have seen, that you've lived, the good, the bad, and the ugly, for a lot of these products out here to really come in and help with the onboarding?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, you can't have employee referrals without employees, right? So it's
important.
The adoption is critical in the beginning, and you really need to support your customer to get that level of adoption. And they also have to want it, right? Like, because if they're just going to buy it and leave it on the shelf, it's not going to work. They're going to churn, right? The working with the customer to make sure that they promote this and put basically all the money and time that they're saving on automation, they need to now double down on getting it out there to the employees. That's the key. Now, your shiny object syndrome's completely right. However,
we need AI, and we need it now.
100%.
We needed it yesterday.
Wait a
minute, what's AI? Like, exactly.
With a product like ours, you do become infrastructure for large businesses. For smaller businesses, it's not as valuable. But for large businesses, you become the thing that would cost them $1 million otherwise to run, right? So you put that in place. Hiring is up, hiring is down. It really doesn't matter. You're now a workflow tool and an automation tool. Once you hit that level and it's just working, you don't need to be a shiny object anymore. People can forget about you, but they're not going to remove you, right?
What if I just slapped you across the face right now on the screen? What do you think would happen? Would that make for good TV?
Yeah, you should give it a go.
All right, let's have some real talk. Guys, I know Mike for a while. This is the fun part
I've
of the
never
show.
met this guy before in my life.
This is the fun part of the show here. Now,
Actually, I met you. First time I met you was Transform last year.
yeah, we were interviewing right over there. I mean, look how I'm all grown up now over here.
One of us has longer hair now.
Yes,
It's not me.
It's not. So let's get a little personal here. I've seen the struggles. I'm privy to it, and it's not all glamorous. And what do you think is happening right now in this LinkedIn, always-on social media society, where so many folks, it's so cool. I'm in founder mode. I'm a founder. What's the real shit, man?
I wouldn't wish this life on anyone.
It is tough.
I mean, like, it is fucking hard. Can we swear?
Yeah.
Bleep that one out. I mean, like, look, it's there's ups and downs just like anything else, but the trade-offs, I mean, that's the thing that you don't realize. Once you start having some success, where you have like a company that's a real company making a couple $1 million, you have employees that are going to be there now. Like we have people that are hitting 4 years with us, 5 years with us. It's insane, right? It's a lot of work. I mean, that's really just all it is. It's like, and it never stops. You don't get a break.
No,
you're not allowed to have a break.
When's the last time you took vacation? Like a real off the grid.
I mean, this is my vacation. I'm in Vegas.
You know what? It's kind. It's kind of like I kind of see where you go with that.
My out of office is on. You know, we're here, steaks, two drinks.
Who's running the ship? You got someone in control?
Yeah. That's part of it. You got to build that team up.
How do you relinquish trust? Not relinquish, but you're trusting somebody where you could actually take a step back.
Yeah. So the way you do it is that you take your best shot, and then you realize you messed up and you shouldn't have trusted that person.
No.
You pull it all back, and then you try it again, right? So, but yeah, I mean, that's what's happening right now. The team's doing what they do.
If we're hitting the rewind button and we're looking back a year from now, what are you most proud of from a company innovation or growth or culture perspective at Aaron 1 year ago from right now?
I mean, our average customer size has gone through the roof, right? So we've gone from an average customer size of 30,000 employees to 45,000 employees. And I mean, and honestly, so, you know, you're asking about the vacation and the founder and whatnot. One of the lessons we learned is like you could be 1,000 employees, you could be 100,000 employees. In this space with these tech stacks, it's kind of the same level of effort, right? So our value is just so much more amplified on the 100,000 employee business. That's where we spend our time. And not that we should ignore these businesses. It's just that they don't need us as much as they do, right? So focusing on that and finding that focus and finding that kind of, I don't want to call it a niche, but just like falling into enterprise, you know, whether we wanted to or not, has allowed us as a business to really just spend our time wisely.
What's keeping you up at night?
I will tell you, I'm pessimistic on the hiring conditions for the year. I do think unemployment's going to be higher than we've seen in the last 6 years. I think the stock market's going to pull back. I think the housing market's going to pull back. However, when that happens, you'll see the VC market come back. I mean, so when you can't get 20% on the stock market, you're going to see private funding rebound a bit, which is good.
You don't think the gunpowder's drying up?
I think the gunpowder has dried up, but people are sitting there waiting to take their next shot, right? This is the thing. This is the secret. These companies only get paid when they deploy the capital, right? Their commitments on funding only matter if they deploy it. So what you've seen in the last couple of years is that they've deployed bigger checks to less companies, which is probably was smart.
They're wising up.
Yeah, but when you see the stock market pull back and hiring conditions change a bit, you're going to see private companies come out of nowhere and
Sage advice from my friend Mike Staffy over at Aaron here. Now we're going to leave someone with some advice here. As someone who burns the candle at both ends at these events, what is the secret to looking this fresh the next day?
All right, I'll answer that one. So it's
Pedialyte,
low carb monster, the white ones, the white monsters, right? In-N-Out burger cures your hangover but gives you diabetes. And honestly, this time of year, walk. Let the wind hit you. Let the fresh air. Like, you deserve that, right? You deserve that. Not in a good way. Like, you need to walk to work, right?
You need to walk to work.
And then by the time you get here, if your marketing that guy doesn't give you too much shit, you're in a good spot.
If your marketing guy doesn't give you too much shit. Well, I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Aaron. Everyone check out aaronapp.com. Where else?
I think that's the best place you can go.
aaronapp.com. I know the link. I know it backwards and forwards. Mike Staffy, Aaron, we're keeping the show going. Transform 2025. Who's up next? I think I know who it is. It's the main man. Let's go. We are back. I'm with the main man, Daniel Chait, the CEO at Greenhouse. I'm thrilled to be here. First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is exciting.
Thank you for welcoming the podcast of Transform. How many years have you guys been doing this?
Yeah, all of them.
All of them.
Anytime we go to a show, I'm like, walk in and just look for the nicest booth. That's Greenhouse. Like, they do a great job, our team, with, set design and just representing the brand. And, then you get out there and mix it up with the customers and see what's happening.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about the brand here. I could take my phone.
Yep.
And I could just throw it as far and hard as I can, and I will hit a competitor. Which one do you want me to hit first question? No, I'm kidding.
Like, we do not advocate
physical violence on the show. It's metaphor.
Just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should.
Well, here's my question that I'm leading into. What makes Greenhouse different?
Yeah. So
you like that lead in right there with violence. No, kidding.
No. So you're right. It is a very crowded, space. There's a lot of ATSs. There always has been. In fact, when we started, we Googled applicant tracking software, and we scrolled down page after page. We got about 400 of them, and then we just bored of scrolling, but there's so many more, and new ones coming every year. But you might wonder, well, if that was the case 13 years ago when we started in 2012, why did we start? What did we think we had to add to the conversation? And the point that we made at the time, which I think is still true, is we said, look, we're not in this to do an applicant tracking system. We're in this because there are persistent, meaningful problems in hiring that no one has fixed. And whatever else you want to say, those problems are still there.
There's lots
And
of
so
problems.
you can look around a trade show, or you can go online and talk to vendors or whatever you want to do. But the fact of the matter is that the problems are still there. And so we're still we're still out there solving them for our customers.
What problems are still there, Daniel?
Yeah, so fundamentally, most companies, they struggle to make the right hire when they need to make that hire, because it's hard to identify the right talent. It's hard to connect with the right person online, wherever they may be. Nowadays, there's obviously hundreds of millions or billions of online profiles to try to sift through. Applicants are using AI themselves to fill up your funnel, so now there's more and more noise.
I literally have 80 questions in my head as he's talking.
No,
right
it's
now.
like, but the problems can multiply.
The technology is compounding problems.
And that's right.
It's supposed to solve
And
problems.
A lot of the issues are getting more complicated, not less. And so as I think about what we were trying to tackle when we started, and I look at where we are now, look, I'm proud of the progress we made. Our customers last year filled in 13 million scorecards. That's 13 million hours that someone sat down and had a more intelligent conversation. We collected, our customers did hundreds of thousands of candidate pronunciation and pronouns. Those are all opportunities to give a fair and more inclusive interview experience. I could go on. So we've done a lot, but if you think about it, the problems have gotten bigger faster than we can tackle them.
How do you think we're moving away from the acronym ATS? Or maybe not just the acronym, but instead of applicant tracking system, we're moving into a world where solutions like Greenhouse are solving more than just applicant tracking. They're solving sourcing, they're solving screening, they're solving scheduling. What does this new world look like for TA Tech software?
There's been two phases so far in Greenhouse's history. Since we started in 2012, for about 10 years until about 2022, there was this massive explosion in new technology for recruiting. And it all integrated with Greenhouse. So on average, our customers were using every year more and more of it. By 2022, our customers on average were using over 13 integrated products in each Greenhouse account. And then when interest rates reset and tech really started facing cost pressures and laying off staff, the whole direction of that changed. And from then, it's really been a story of consolidation. But the through line to all of this has been, whether there's more vendors or less vendors, the problems are getting bigger and the solutions are doing more, right? Because the customers are demanding more.
Right.
And so whether that comes from one vendor or five vendors, nonetheless, like the problems are, so you talk about applicant tracking system. What I argue is, like 30 years ago when I entered the job market, the problem that companies had was they had some applicants and they had to track them in the system, right?
Now our problem's different.
They would put up a want ad in the paper. Like that's what happened.
Because I remember that.
And they would have applicants, they wanted to track them in the system. And so an applicant tracking system was literally the solution to that problem. Nowadays, that's not the problem people have.
Maybe it's an applicant solution system.
The problems people have are multitudinous and complicated. And so you need really robust technology to tackle it. And by the way, really robust process and talent internal. The software's not magic. You also, as a company, have to show up and do your part.
So what I'm finding out there, it's a volume problem. And I think a lot of companies in tech out there are trying to solve the volume problem because of the market. The market is dictating that it's a supply and demand, where the supply is so high right now, the demand is low. And these tools out there are trying to solve this volume problem, but not the quality problem. What tools does Greenhouse have, either now or that you're innovating, to work on the quality? Here's a kicker. Here's a kicker, Dan. Where we're not sacrificing the human connection and we're allowing more time for the recruiters, the internal teams, to have more of the human time.
That's right. So, what's making this problem worse? I mean, sure, market conditions are what they are, but fundamentally, it's gotten way easier to apply for a job than ever before.
Spot for spot.
Not even click. It used to be,
I used to think about the job.
Again, like when I applied for a job, you went to Kinko's and you printed your resume and put it in an envelope. Then you could click and apply it in ATS. And now your AI agent applies for you to hundreds of jobs, personalize each cover letter and resume. And that's only getting more and more. So it's the market, but it's also the technology available. So the result of that is that if I'm an employer and I open up a role, I may have hundreds or thousands of applicants filling up my pipeline the minute I open the job. And yet the amount of quality in there is not getting any more. It's just a lot more noise.
And the other problem is also you have these products out there for candidates, because why shouldn't candidates arm themselves with tech and tools when all the
I don't begrudge them. That's what they should do.
The problem is we're getting to bot versus bot and a race to the bottom. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a problem on both sides. I don't know that it's a race to the bottom as much as it is really the way I see it.
Well, I think they're optimizing the resumes to talk that, and they're not qualified.
Your point is, I agree with, is everyone is responding to their own priorities and interests. And so applicants are using this software as they should, as any good job seeker should, try to maximize their chances. And employers are then going like, okay, if the applicants are using AI to like increase the number of applications, then employers want to use AI to sift through it. And we're like, this is madness. Where's it end? And I think
it is madness.
if you just extrapolate it out, if it was totally frictionless to apply to any job, and every employee always had, every individual had an agent constantly applying to every job for them, the minute anybody opens a job, all 8 billion humans are in your pipeline right away.
There has to be friction. There has to be friction.
There's no signal. So I think the answer is information, is useful information. And so you asked what we're doing about this. And we're providing AI tools and things like that as well. But those are all, I think, if we talk about stopgaps. What we're doing is we're helping our employer customers showcase useful information about themselves to help them stand out. So what do I mean by that? If you look across our customer base, some of our customers ghost candidates, right?
How do you define ghosting?
Candidates apply to a job, they go through an interview or two, they never hear back.
Generally speaking, do you think if a 100% unqualified candidate applies to a job that a company owes them a response?
I think the amount of response that you're owed should be equivalent to the amount of effort invested.
Clip that there, because I want everyone to understand that, because I completely agree with him, that if a candidate is just spraying and praying or using technology, you shouldn't always expect a response.
You got an auto reply.
You get what you get, and you shouldn't get upset.
You got an auto reply.
My kids.
If you fly in for a day of interviews with our executive team, yeah, you're getting a personalized call from me.
You better be getting a phone call.
So again, that scales. But my point is, a lot of our employers actually never ghost applicants. They get back every single time, whether you're moving forward or not. Those hiring managers get a badge in your greenhouse verified, that says that they're responsive. Similarly, some of our customers make great use of scorecards. They always create a well-rounded scorecard for every role, and they fill them in, and they use those to make judgments on applicants. And so those behaviors of like, are you responsive? Are you fair-minded? Are you communicative to candidates? That's real information that candidates want to know. And so by surfacing that behavior right in the job application form to the candidates, we can create really unique data that cuts through the noise and let each job seeker know, not all, how do I spam everyone, but that's the job I want. That's the right job for me.
And kind of going back to what you said before, this is a thought that's been kind of going through my head as a recruiter. I am all for a bit, and this is going to be a little bit of a hot take, a little bit more friction in the application process, a little bit more effort on the candidate side to weed out some of the automation to see if the candidate is really serious in there. I think there's a fine balance here. And I think that kind of goes with scorecards also, because I've worked with companies, both when I've been an in-house recruiter and an agency recruiter, where people are just like, check, 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 check. How do you design a scorecard where it's not, how do you find that right balance, Dan, where it's, the recruiter is incentivized to give the right information, but it's not overbearing. Where it's.
Can I suggest a slightly different frame on what I think you're saying?
Please reframe.
Which is, rather than introducing friction, which is basically just the definition of friction in physics, I took a lot of physics in college, is energy wasted as heat.
You don't want to
right?
waste.
We don't want that. What if I think about it instead as like the energy invested by the applicant in creating more useful information cuts through the noise?
I equals P over C.
Just like the information, just like the energy invested by the hiring manager or the recruiting team creates information that's useful to the applicant. So I think what we're trying to do is create a world where each side in this problem can, if they choose to, invest more energy in their own side of the equation, creating more information for the other side. So rather than say we're going to introduce friction, make it harder, I say let's give each side opportunities to showcase themselves better.
First of all, thank you for the reframe. One thing I just tell everybody here, and a little side note, feedback's a gift, right? When somebody gives you feedback, especially someone as accomplished as Daniel right here, you take it and you think about how to reframe things and reposition it here. I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about the power of a strong yes, right? The power of the strong yes. What does that mean?
Strong yes has become an iconic token within the greenhouse community. And, where it originated was in the product. It was an authentic expression of that feeling when you interview a candidate and they have it, right? And I think prior to Greenhouse, there were like numeric ratings and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then some customers go, oh, we have an 11-point scale. We have a 92-point scale. I'm like, I think that missed something essential, which is hiring's not a math problem. Hiring is a mixture of art and science.
Yes, 100%.
And there's a lot of science involved, don't get me wrong, but we never wanted to lose that heart, that human element. And so when you meet a candidate, sometimes they pass the interview, sometimes they fail the interview. And also, sometimes they're like, you need to pay attention to this person, they're amazing. And sometimes, let's face it, we shouldn't waste our time with this person.
There's also some people that are not great interviewers, but solid background.
So we started with the product of like, there's a pass-fail, but there's also a definitely not, which is like, let's not waste our time with this person or waste their time. And there was the strong yes, which is like, this is someone we should really lean into. So that it came out of the product, but what it has represented, again, is I think this like elevated idea that there's a heart behind hiring, that they're like, oh yeah, you get what we're doing. And there's a feeling when you meet that right candidate that's like exciting, and there's some meaning behind it to that job. Like this might be the best job you're ever going to get, and I just found you.
Feel it.
How amazing! And so I think it captures a feeling that that people appreciate.
One of the favorite things I've had, I can't believe I'm approaching over 550 conversations with amazing leaders like Daniel here, and I love this question I'm about to ask you because there's a through line, and I assume you're going to say what I think you're going to say, so I'm going to write it down in my head.
Don't be predictable.
When you're hiring,
yes.
When you're hiring and you are the actual decision maker at your level, by the time a candidate gets to you, they have the on-paper skill, they have the experience.
Yes.
Now you need to determine if they're a strong yes in your head. What is your line of questioning? How do you get to that place in your head where you're able to say strong yes?
Yeah. So
what questions
there's
are
a
there?
few things that go into it. So I hate to disappoint you. There's no magical question you can ask someone that's like the ultimate
There's
brain
never one
teaser.
question.
That's like, oh, that's the one,
zinger.
one cool trick to hiring great people. Like, it's not how it works. What I actually do though is, first of all, I'm a big believer that it's the right person for the right role. It's not that like you can take all the people in the world and rank them A to Z as to who's the best person, who's the worst. It's like the right fit for the right job. And so I'm always trying to find out, is this person going to thrive in this situation? And so a big part of that is how do we work together? And so to your point, by the time someone gets to me, they've already got the technical skills, they've already passed a lot of screens. I spend time working with that person. We send them some homework ahead of time. Again, you invest some energy in it as the applicant.
I love it.
We send you some materials.
Energy investing.
And what we ask you is, put some of yourself into this session and then show up and let's work together on it. And it's a sort of simulated, so if I'm hiring someone as an HR leader, it might be a talent strategy question. If I'm hiring someone in a sales leadership role, it might be a go-to-market operations question. But like, let's dig in, like, how do you do annual planning? How do you think about quotas and compensation? And like, let's see if this is gonna work. Let's see if we make each other better. Let's see if there's like a 1 + 1 = 3 between us. So that's a big piece of it for me, is are they the right person for this opportunity that I have on my team?
And you want to know how they figured it out. What's their thought process? How did they get to that point? What is keeping you up at night these days as a leader of an organization?
I mean, it's my job is to worry. So as much as like lots of stuff is going well, I have a long list of things I pay attention to. Look, I think any leader today, me or anyone else, undeniably, we're all buffeted by constant change. We talked about AI. We talked about massive changes in the job market. We talked about massive changes in the technology landscape and the competitive, even what does our product category mean? So even just in this short conversation, we've talked about at least 3 trends I can think of that would keep anyone in my seat up at night.
We hit them all right here.
I mean, this is the real stuff. And that's like literally like, if you sit in my leadership team, these are the things that we're thinking about, because you have to make, as any leader, you have to make big important decisions under lots of uncertainty that have a huge amount of impact. And one thing I don't worry about is finding opportunities. we have more opportunities to, because again, our mission is to help every company become great at hiring. And if you're out there listening and you think, oh, every company's already great at hiring, your mission's accomplished, like, I got news for you. I think most people would agree that hiring is far from perfect. And so the opportunities to make things better at the top of the funnel, help companies find the right person, spend money more efficiently, have better data in the middle of the funnel, run a more efficient process, make better decisions, be fairer, be more transparent. And at the end of the funnel, making smart offers, being fair, being more accurate. Like, no matter where you look, there's opportunities. So I don't worry about that. What I worry about is the choices we have to make to capture them. And those are hard, but they're fun.
What a fantastic and insightful answer. We're getting close to bringing it home here, but I want to ask you, let's talk about this greenhouse team here.
Yes.
The work that they've been doing, especially in the last year or so. What has put that biggest smile on your face? What makes you so proud of this team behind you? With you.
Anyone can sell. Anyone can program. Anyone can service customers or send out invoices or do any of the other hundreds of things that a company has to do. What makes me really proud of this team is when I see people working together, being entrepreneurial to solve a problem that's going to matter to someone, that's going to be valuable, that's going to help them. And that level of just teamwork and care and dedication to like a bigger purpose, I just always find it inspiring. So to me, more than anything, like, that's what makes me proud.
I absolutely love it. And last but not least, I'm going to go into my. I'm like a 5-tool pitcher here. I'm going to set up this last pitch over here.
Hopefully I don't swing at the third here.
I'm looking down at my catcher there. I'm seeing the signal here. Got the pitch. What is the single greatest piece of advice, career-wise, that you ever received that you take action on every single day as a leader?
I was deciding early in my career. Now, if you know me, you know I've been an entrepreneur almost my whole career. So I didn't have that many jobs. I only had one job in New York. I quit and started a company. That was 1997. But when I was getting that job, I had the choice between a job that was high status, brand name company, more money, or a job that was a company you never heard of for a lot less money, but I loved the people, and I loved the mission. And as a young person, I didn't know the right, it's obvious the answer now.
Right.
I didn't know the right answer. And so I went to a friend of mine and he said like, hey, look, what are your choices? I laid it out for him and he looked at me like, you idiot. This is the most obvious choice in the world. You should take the opportunity to work with people that you like and respect and can learn from on a problem you care about. And I made that decision and I've always treasured that. And I always navigated my career with those as my guiding principles.
Love it. Daniel Chait, CEO of Greenhouse, here on the podcast, live from Transform 2025. More to come here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We are back with Amira Barger from Edelman, and Edelman is a firm that I know well, having worked in recruiting in the PR and advertising space and working in the space for 15 years. I'm thrilled to have her here. Kindly introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do best. And I love the glasses, by the way.
Thank you. They're my favorite ones. Thanks for having me, Amira Barger with Edelman. And I work at the world's largest communications firm. And I have the pleasure of wearing two very distinct hats there. My first hat, I work in healthcare communications. And that can be anything from medical schools, pharma, to hospital and health systems. And the second hat I get to wear is leading our global DEI advisory. So I'm client facing and I get to work with companies all across the world, telling them about their employee engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and answering their questions and just helping them to make it better so that their workplaces are places where people can truly thrive.
We have so much to unpack here. So first and foremost, when it comes to home to Edelman, what is the company's position and stance right now on DEI and D?
We have been committed to DEI for years, long before it was popular. This is about values alignment, and that's how I like to think of it, and how I think every individual leader and every institution should be thinking about it is, what do you value? And if diversity, equity, and inclusion are things that you embrace, if a place where people can show up as their most chosen selves, and I prefer chosen self to authentic self, is a place that you want to
I
be.
like that you differentiated that.
Yeah, DEI is something to advance. So we help our clients advance it, we advance it ourselves, and I'm so glad that we do. And it's one of the reasons I'm here in this place.
Don't leave off the B. Don't
Say
leave
that
off
again?
don't leave off the B for belonging.
That's right. Don't forget about the V. You gotta have the V. The belonging bit matters absolutely, because that's one of the outcomes that we're driving towards. That's why these DEI programs exist, is we need the belonging to be an outcome of how people actually feel within the workplace.
Let's get into it a little bit here. Why do you think so many people have a problem with DEI and B? Where's the? I want to soften this a little bit, but let's keep it hard.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Happy to.
Aside from outward racism, aside from outward hate,
Right.
Let's put that. Let's
Those
put that
are big ones,
because those
yeah.
are shitty people that they suck
That's
and
right.
they don't want to deal
You
with
don't
them.
wanna talk
But
to
like
them.
the average good person, there
That's
are
right.
like I
They're
think it's fair
more
to
or
say.
less than not.
But I think it's also fair to say that there are good people.
Yes.
I think this is fair to say. This is my take. There are good people that are against it because maybe they don't understand it. Maybe they don't realize. Where's the miscommunication? Where's the misconceptions around DEI and B?
I think a lot of it has been a communications challenge. So interesting that you pose the question that way. I do think that it is a fundamental misunderstanding of what diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging are and why they exist. So, for example, right now, I've seen a litany of news stories asking about, well, what about veterans? Or I can't believe we're hurting veterans. And I tell people, that's who we've been fighting for. We care
They're part
about
of
you.
the DIB.
They are. And they
It's
didn't
not
know it
just-
until right now, though. That's the thing.
It's not just POC. It's
That's right.
veterans fall
That's
under DEI and B.
We cared about you. We care about you still. I've been fighting for you. You were always a part of this. So that's a huge part of it. But it really is a misunderstanding. I think as long as everyday good people, as you say, who I think actually don't hate DEI. I think that as long as DEI is positioned and thought of as that thing over there for those people, we're gonna have a problem. It's not, as you say, it's not only for people of color. It's not only for women.
Disabled,
It's not only
veterans,
for disabled, right?
people with
LGBTQ+,
learning
maybe,
disabilities.
neurodivergent or neurospicy
I mean, there's
friends.
so many things. There's so many other people aside from what you think that fall under.
That's right.
Like
Under that umbrella.
So do you think it's a communication problem aside
I
from
think
outward
it
racist
is.
assholes?
Yes, those
Aside
people
from those
are they're
jerks.
no, yeah, they're a different category. We don't need to talk to them. There are only so many people that can be moved, and I think there is a bucket of people, those people who they can't be moved on the issue, but other everyday people. And here's what I'll also say: is that there are a lot of salacious headlines and a lot of noise, but
Clickbait noise.
the anti-DEI cohort is really good about getting news stories and media, but when you talk to the everyday person, the everyday manager, the everyday employee, people see the benefits of DEI and B, and they have personally benefited or know somebody who has personally benefited. So I tell people, you can't only read the headlines. You need to go and talk to real human beings, because even in our Edelman Trust Barometer data, across age, across gender, across race, across political lines, people say, I see and I understand the value of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and I think it's a good thing.
Here's a curveball. If you had an opportunity,
No,
if you have an opportunity to rebrand DEI and B, what would you call it?
I wouldn't rebrand it. That's the thing, is I think the words we've chosen thus far are the right words. And, you know, I saw someone who I admire from afar talk to people about how the words don't matter, and I vehemently disagree. They matter.
They're intentional words.
We intentionally
acronym.
chose that acronym for a reason. I do think you have to say the words out loud. Acronyms trip people up. And we studied that even on our own Edelman Trust Barometer. Say diversity, say equity, say inclusion, not just the acronym. And so those are the right words. I think what we have to do is you have to go into people one-on-one more, which takes longer and it's more expensive, but it's the most right thing to do. Is we have to have more real one-on-one conversations to bring people along in their understanding of what DEI is. Like I said, with even the veterans, and people were saying, my veteran son, my veteran husband, my veteran friend, and I'm telling people, we were always fighting for you.
They were
and
protected.
So those misunderstandings, that DEI was for you. And so I need you to make choices that help keep it in place, because we meant you too.
Yes. I Let's amplify that. Let's scream it louder from the people in the back.
Please.
Flipping gears, flipping sides to talk about how you communicate with your clients there. What are those challenges that they're facing, whether communicating internally or how are they navigating it politically with maybe their clients who are saying, for whatever reasons, we are not working with companies that still have DEI. We're not working with vendors. We're not working with clients that still support DEI and MAID.
Yeah, there's no right answers right now, which is one of the hardest things. I think there are a lot of companies and individual leaders who are moving to remove friction where they can, right? And so whether that's scrubbing the website of the past DEI impact reports and aspirational goals, one thing that I tell people is we see a lot of this posturing and positioning changing. We're not always saying the words DEI. We're not producing DEI reports anymore. And as long as the work is still happening behind the scenes, I think that's what most people care about. And I think that's what's happening is we used to be very stealth and quiet before, I think, 2020, because that's when a bunch of people woke up, right? But we were always here. This DEI isn't new. It's new to many people.
The whole BLM movement brought it to the forefront. And I think that I'm going to say this very carefully. I think that added a lot to the bad PR side and stoked a lot of the bad flames of the people we don't want to talk to.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely been a
From my perspective, that's how I saw it happen.
Yeah, and that's why I think so many people see it as that thing over there for Black people. And that's not true. Diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been about leveling the playing field for a great many people. We all have so many dimensions to our identity, right? I'm a Black, disabled woman, but you might have many layers I don't even know and I can't even see, right? It's that iceberg,
you want to know what's under this lid. There's a lot going on.
There's the 10% that's knowable above the water,
and
the 90% under that's not knowable. And so I think that we need to focus on raising people's awareness of what DEI and B actually looks to accomplish, because there's something in it for every single person to gain, and it's for everyone. It always has been.
And I think there's a big one there that encompasses over half the population is women.
That's
I think that we fail to talk about women. We fail to talk about the LGBT community, for non-binary, for people who are mis and underrepresented out there. This is for more than what you see on the surface. Let's keep it moving. I want to switch it up a little bit of a right turn and talk about how does niceness, what the hell is wrong with it? Are we supposed to be nice? How is niceness screwing everything up?
It's screwing up so much. And thank you for the shameless plug. I have a book coming out in October.
I know what I'm doing
called
over there.
The Price of Nice, How Comfort Keeps Us Stuck, and 4 Actions for Real Change. And to me, nice is one of the most insidious social constructs. What's a social construct? A made-up rule, like gender, like money, like race. Made up rules that we live by that are meant to keep us in these neat little boxes.
Wait, so this book is telling me it's okay to not be nice anymore?
A little bit, yes, but the antithesis of nice is not mean. And that's what I want people to understand. To me, the antithesis of nice is nerve. And
it's like, what's the opposite of love,
nerve.
right?
That's right. Nerve is about having the audacity to say the quiet parts out loud, to be the squeaky wheel, to be the one who raises their hand to say, I know we've always been doing it this way, but is that really the most
Just
right
because
way?
we've been doing it is the right thing. Let's talk about this book a little bit.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself in the process of writing it?
Ooh. Man, that's a big
We're heating up. It's midday here on the podcast. I'm just cooking here, folks.
That I need to have a bit more patience with other people. I think I've come to this understanding, and I live and breathe this, and it's how I've shaped my life personally, professionally, politically. And I have to bring other people along, which is why I wrote the book. I put pen to paper on what I've been doing to live my life, having nerve over just being nice. And now I need to pause and be patient with people to bring them along the journey and help them have the same level of learning and understanding that I have come to.
You talk a little about your moral compass. Well, let me backtrack before I talk about the moral compass here. Who is this book for and why should they read it?
The main audience for this book are communicators. And here's why. Not only because I'm a communicator, but I learned many moons ago that what people will do at any given moment is determined by how they see the world. How they see the world is determined by the stories they are told and the words that we choose. Communicators have a superpower that I don't know we all always tap into or even understand. Words shape worlds, and I know that colloquialism of words matter is something that people say in a really quipped way, but it actually does matter. And it actually is true that as storytellers, whether you're selling a product, a service, an idea, we have this superpower to change how people see the world and move through the world. So this book is for communicators.
Side note here, I want more time. I want to have her on the morning show. We need to continue this conversation here. I wish we had more than 20 minutes. I want to talk about your moral compass. I love how you say it. It's build foundations, not kingdoms.
Oh, yeah.
Dig in a little bit on that one.
You know, I have seen a great many leaders that I don't want to be. And that's where that came from. I haven't seen many leaders, that I want to be. And so for me, that's where that came from is when I think about, leaders who build a kingdom, they want something to rule over. They want people to rule over. To me, a true leader builds a foundation and understands that other people are going to be laying bricks long after you and building the thing collectively over time. You do your part. You lay your brick or your 10 bricks or your 100 bricks, but you leave the tools, you leave the roadmap for others to lay the brick that is meant for them in their time.
Clip that up, folks. That is money right there. Here's the real question. How are we getting you to New Zealand?
Oh, sign me up right away. One of my...
We're at a speaking conference.
It's on my top 10 list.
We have Transform New Zealand, right? Transform New Zealand?
I didn't know that. Let's do it. I know. Let's make it up.
I'm going to talk to tomorrow. Later, we're going to find out about that. So I want to leave here on two things. We're going to do kind of a negative positive here. What's keeping you up at night these days professionally?
Professionally, it is a lot of the DEI rollback that's happening right now, because I think that what we're seeing is what's coming to light is the companies and the individuals who weren't values aligned. Those are the ones rolling it back. There are many more that are going 10 toes down. I'm excited for the ones going 10 toes down, and what's keeping me up at night is how do we support them more? How do we go into more, I'm going to name a company, more Costco's, more Apples. They're going 10 toes down and they're saying, bring it on, Delta. They're going 10 toes down. How do we support them? I want to find a way to make sure that we are supporting those kind of leaders, those kind of companies who said, we're not going anywhere. DEI matters and we're keeping it.
I'm going to end here on some positivity here. What is the single greatest piece of professional career advice you've ever received that you take action on daily?
It's something I learned when I was a kid, and something that I teach my daughter today is you leave people in places better than you found them. Period.
That's how we do it here, folks. Amira, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
I'm mostly on LinkedIn, and this summer I will be launching AmiraBarger.com and the book. But find me on LinkedIn. Such a pleasure. Glad to be here.
That's how we do it on the podcast. Amira, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
It's 2 for Tuesday here on the podcast. I have two incredible guests here. I'm going to welcome ladies. We have Natasha and Christina from Tubi, but I'm not going to introduce them. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Tell us who you are and what you do best.
My name's Christina Navarro. I'm head of global TA at Tubi. What I do best is work with the business to help shape their teams.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, Natasha Villani. I am also part of Tubi. I head up HR for Tubi and Tubi Media Group at Fox. I'd say what I do best is I get great teams together to work on hard and interesting things.
Well, now that we have two guests here, one in talent, one in HR, what are some best practices for TA and HR to really work together as besties?
I could start. I think the number one thing for me is whether it's my HR VPs or my recruiters on Christina's team, you have to be part of the business. You have to sit close to your business. You got to know operationally all the data. And if my people are not close to the business, it's a problem. And so I would say that's probably the number one thing.
Yeah, and I would say from an HR and TA perspective, just being really unified in what your collective goals are and kind of working together directionally to make that come to life. We're really lucky. We have really great relationships with our HR VPs, and it just makes us work a lot better, smarter, and faster. So
I think, and this is advice to any recruiter out there, sage advice. You need to future-proof yourself. You need to make yourself invaluable to the company. And the way you're going to do that is embedding yourself with the business, really learning the in and outs of it. So you could be more informed when you talk to the candidates, right? Because you are the first line of communication with any potential new employee coming in there. And B, it's going to make you invaluable as you have conversations within the business too. Now, along the lines of future-proofing in the world of TA, I'm going to say the letters AI. We're going to talk about AI.
let's talk about
Do you feel that AI is going to replace a lot of recruiters' roles?
Not a lot of recruiters' roles, but some recruiter roles. I think AI AI is really important in terms of automations, but it doesn't replace relationships. I think when you think about transactional hiring efforts and things like that that are more volume specific, I could see some shifts there. But when you think about executive search, when you think about professional
It's going to
hiring,
stay human.
it's going to stay human, and it needs to. I think you need to leverage AI to make you work smarter, but you still need human discernment to really make it the most impactful.
Use it as
Can I
a
plus
tool
one
and not a
that?
crush. You can plus
Sorry.
3 if you want.
+3. I just want to add, sorry, +2, +3. That human touch, because I talk to candidates on the other end sometimes when we hire them, it goes so far. It's wow, my HRBP to my recruiter to my hiring manager to the IT person who onboarded me, all of it felt like it was cohesive, it was connected. And so I think there's still a place for that.
Absolutely. So this is actually pretty cool here. Let's talk about a couple of best practices, high level, of taking that experience from the candidate experience to the employee experience being a seamless and positive, lack for a better word, experience. What are some best practices?
It's every touch point has to feel seamless. Every touch point the way we do it at Tubi, and we pride ourselves on this, is before you join, you get a swag box delivered to your front door. I mean, these aren't new things. These are just great things to make you feel like you are loyal to a company. I'm excited to be here. We have the benefit of working for a very exciting brand. So people are like, I work for this amazing advertising free content
But what if you
brand.
didn't?
So
What if you didn't? What are some of the learnings at a company who may not be
Fair.
as name recognition? Because listen, sometimes unsexy makes a lot of money in this world. What is the best practice? What is the best practices?
yeah. It's honestly, it's not to fumble. And if you fumble, own up to it. I would say that's
Love that.
probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would say back to the HR business partnership conversation we were having earlier, just really understanding what the end-to-end pre-boarding and onboarding process looks like, what it looks like on the TA side, and really kind of bridging that gap together. And then we're really big on feedback from candidates, hiring managers, everybody that's involved. So really leaning into that and taking that to iterate your process.
So let's talk about the current market right now. Everyone knows brutal is an understatement. It's brutal out there. There are so many good folks out of work. There's so many tech companies and other companies with layoffs. And right now we have a supply problem. There's too much supply. There's too much supply. How does the TA team and the HR team manage this incredible? I can't even imagine the throw a number out to me. Let's start here. I want to know how you manage it, but throw a number out to me. The most ridiculous number of applicants you have for an open rec right now.
11,000.
11. What kind of role is it?
Early career. We just launched a new rotational program
Is
that
it
we're really
internship?
excited about. It's not an internship program. It's an early career program, and it's really designed to have early career talent work on really impactful initiatives and gain mentorship, hands-on learning, and work on projects that really move the business forward. We did a lot of advertising, but we can lean on our brand to help from a talent attraction perspective. Had 11,000 applicants. We reviewed every single application, but we had to kind of divide and conquer from a human resourcing perspective. We had to get really smart with the different features within the Greenhouse platform to filter, to use Boolean search strings, to screen in, to screen out.
So let's lift up the hood a little bit here. Listen, us in the people business, we have to keep empathy top of mind. We have to always remember that there's a person at the end of every application. I have a little bit of a spicy hot take where I feel the level of qualification of applying to a job should be predicated on the response that you get because of a volume problem. If you're applying to a role and you're 100% not qualified for it, it's an automated email. Obviously, if someone goes through the process and they're spending time, you level up the human touch of it there too. How the hell do you do that with 11,000 people? How do you manage it? What were some of the lessons learned from going through this process where you also obviously have to keep the Tubi candidate and brand reputation in mind? How'd you guys do that?
Yeah, so we definitely use screener questions for minimum calls, so that was a definite. But I would say one of the things that was really important from a candidate experience perspective was making sure that everybody got some kind of response within 7 days. So we had to really make sure that resume review for this stage in our process was prioritized, and we had to resource it appropriately. We really wanted to make sure that we reviewed every application.
That's
and we were
incredible.
intentional behind it, but there was a lot of support around the program. So not just within the TA team, but the business leaders were partnering with us to review those apps.
I love it. How many, just for everyone out there, 11,000 applications, how many open positions for that?
19.
I mean, it's still a ridiculous ratio.
Well, this is so we replaced our internship program because we felt traditional internship programs don't actually work. You
Why
get
don't they work?
2 to 3 months on a job. You're basically doing database, very minute tasks. And so we said we have to make a trade-off. We're going to sunset that program. We're going to replace it with an 18-month deep rotation program.
I like this.
The one thing I do love about it, I just want to plug this in, is the accessibility piece. Because a lot of people can't take the time off to like do a 2 to 3 month commitment with little to no pay, with no benefits. But an 18-month true rotation program for early career talent gives you just that. It gives you substance. It gives you substance, and it's highly paid and competitive paid. We're not overpaying, competitively paid. But it also gives you full benefits to take a chance.
That's tremendous. And it's kind of making me think of, I kind of tell the story, and everyone who's a fan of the show, they know I've said it 1,000 times. What I love about this rotation program, I think one of the most important things for anyone new in their career is not so much to learn what you like to do, but learning what you don't like. Like I learned early on when I was working at Amex that I freaking hated the numbers part. I hated the analytics. I hated the numbers. It was not my strong suit. So as I progressed through my career, I leaned into my strengths. I found other roles where I didn't have to do as much as that. This rotation program, what departments are they touching? They're going through everything?
So it's tech focused right now. So it's 3 months in machine learning, 3 months in product, and 3 months in engineering.
Actually, so those are the 3 tracks. And then within those 3 tracks, you spend 6 months within specialized domains for those respective tracks. So there's a little bit of variability to it, but there's a lot that you could do. So if you love this one aspect of product management, like UX or design, but not so much the product management space, you will learn that throughout the rotational program.
You know, the pieces you could take with you.
Yeah, and to your point, you get to understand what you don't love to do. And you're just like, well, I thought ML was for me because it pays high.
Nope.
I'm not great at it. So I'll stick to product. That's okay.
I love this. I think there's a great tip out there for any companies out there. And I think you can do this at any size company, is to rethink. Listen, I've had internships. I assume you guys have been. They were invaluable. They were like gold to me. It gave me experience into what it's actually like when you go from college to the workforce, or if some folks haven't been in college, when you're going into the workforce, it's a different lifestyle. It's a different pace, and you need to, kind of dip your toes in. So let's switch gears for a moment here. Learn it all culture. Learn it all culture. Learn it all culture. What does that mean?
To me, what sticks out is just learnability. Can I throw you into anything, and can you just learn and absorb and be a sponge into whatever I throw you into? To me, that's learn it all.
Yeah, I would say curiosity. I think that's something that we really look for across all of our talent segments.
Curiosity. Huge, huge, huge quality right there.
Yeah, for sure. It's something that we value. I think that's where innovation is really born. So I think at Tubi, we're looking for bold thinkers. So that's always something top of mind when we're kind of navigating through the evaluation process, for sure.
So speaking of culture, speaking of growth, it's been incredible. Tremendous presence in the Super Bowl, driving a lot. New York Times had a piece on Tubi. Tubi's blowing up, which is a good thing. How do you manage growth at such a rapid scale? How do you manage it from a culture perspective? How do you manage it from a people tech perspective? One for you and one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to start. Honestly, it's fun. You got to have fun along the way. Scaling is not an easy thing to do. I mean, I have the benefit of sitting with our senior leaders every day, talking about where we're going to pivot on strategy, where we need to do things differently. I think the biggest thing that with all of this success, there are trade-offs and tough conversations that need to be made. And I think just as much as you're adding to the Tubi portfolio, whether it's from a talent perspective, if you're going to hire more or less, or you decide to pick up a brand new software, the question we always have to ask ourselves in any of those conversations is, what are we going to subtract? You cannot just add to scale. You have to bring back something. And that was actually a really good example in our rotation program where we had the tough conversation to sunset traditional interns and move away from that.
Yeah. I would say when you scale up or scale down, just making sure that you have the right team in place to support that in whatever direction it looks like. For me, it's been really helpful to have utility players that can flex across multiple domains. And you have to operationalize your TA function so that you're cutting out all of the noise, especially when it comes to tech solutions and things like that. I know we talk a lot about AI, but any tool that you use should really enhance your process and not, just be there because everybody's using some kind of like AI tool.
Let's have a tough conversation about tough conversations. What are some best practices? Sometimes we have to offboard folks. What are some best practices out there that you have found, either maybe as a employee, and obviously when you have to communicate to someone that their time has come to end in an organization?
So I've been on the end of those conversations. I've actually been on the other side of that conversation too. And I would say the thing that I think we do best across Fox and Tubi is that it's always a personal touch. You're not getting an email to sunset your position. It's, I'm getting on a call with you. I'm going to amicably talk about the reason we got to this decision. I'm going to also talk about, our business leaders join that conversation too, and they always talk about the rationale. And then we split amicably. And I always open the door to, how can I help you? I want to use my network. I want to make sure that you can find something else. If you need more health insurance, let's have the flexibility of having that conversation.
You want to provide a soft landing.
Exactly. And sorry, I don't know if there's...
Yeah, no, I'm 100% aligned.
All right. Let's talk about the biggest challenges right now in your day-to-day. What's the biggest challenge for you as someone who's leading the talent process? We already mentioned, we all know the market. We know how crazy it is. What's keeping you up at night on the TA side?
What's keeping me up at night? I feel like we have so many great things in place. I can't say that there's anything keeping me up at night, but I would say that the talent landscape is changing so much that just being able to stay on top of innovation and kind of what's actually taking place and ensuring that you're introducing the right things to support the business, I would say that that's probably the one thing that I'm paying the most attention to.
Same question for me.
Why not?
What's keeping me up at night? I worry, not so much with Tubi in general. I worry that a lot of companies are doing this, we're going to do more, but with less mentality, because the stock market crushes on layoffs and efficiencies. And I actually think we need to pivot that question to more around, let's do the right things with the right people. Because this goes back to the subtraction thing where I'd rather,
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, all right, you're agreeing with me. Okay.
That's my green tab.
That's your green tab. Okay. All right, well, I agree with me as well.
If I knock on wood, it's going to be too loud on my microphone, yes.
But I think it's just that. I think you need to find areas that no longer serve a business and just get the right people to focus on the right things.
No, let's move over to the positive side. First and foremost, what do you guys love about working in the greenhouse?
Structured hiring. Structured hiring is what I found to be the most effective way to evaluate really great talent. Tubi has an incredibly high hiring bar, and it's helped us create a really collaborative hiring culture where hiring managers are really engaged, our recruiters could work really fast, and we could provide a really great candidate experience.
Yeah, I mean, I find that you need to empower your team, not just with the best tools, but the training and how to use it, and it's executive championing. The executives have to champion it. It has to come from the top and say, this is what we're using, here's why we're using it, here's why it's effective, and show how it's going to help everybody be more efficient. There's nothing worse, and we all know this, we all work at other companies, when it's just, I call it a scrambled eggs process, where people are throwing things into the mix. Hey, doing them yet? Are they on the schedule? Where are we at with that? And you're like, no, we can't be doing this, because at the end of the day, every open role has a dollar sign on it, because that means, whether it be attritions or layoffs, whatever, that some other employee is doing 2 or 3 times the work, and they may be frustrated and on the way out themselves, and it's a diminishing return there. Yeah. What about yourself with Greenhouse?
I love the feedback functionality. I love to be able to go in and I can track feedback when we do our debriefs at the end. Who's a strong yes? Who's a no? Let's debate the no's. Why are we a no on this? So it is honestly it's one of the best in class applicant tracking systems I've ever encountered.
Awesome. Love it. What are you excited about in this space, just from a technology, a people perspective? I want to end on a good note. What's making you smile these days in the people world?
In the people world, well, right now that I'm here and I get to share ideas and learn from other folks that are doing really great things, that's, again, like that human element, that relationship piece, and just getting to learn from some of the best kind of leaders in the business. I would say that that's kind of what's top of mind for me right now.
I just have to voice over that. Somebody just flipped you off.
Oh, that's Joel. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, that's friendly.
Oh, that's a friendly flip off.
That's friendly
Okay,
fire.
Got it.
That's friendly fire.
All right. Got it.
Shout out to the Chatted Cheese podcast, the most dangerous podcast out there.
That's hilarious.
What excites me the most?
Abundancy.
Well, for me, it's a sense of belonging. I think the themes that I'm hearing in a lot of the sessions is just finding that flexibility to promote that sense of belonging for anybody. So
That's awesome. All right, let's leave it with one more good thing here. What are you guys excited about for Transform? Whether it's somebody speaking, or maybe it's you guys hitting a show up, dinners. What's getting you excited here? What do you love about this?
for me, it's connecting with my team and seeing what's out there. And that puppy station. I need to go pet a puppy.
I'm gonna go check that out.
They're
definitely.
sold out, apparently, of
Sold
spots.
out? Were they selling them?
No,
These
they're not.
spots? Am I gonna have to get a puppy home?
I
one
need
day?
a tote bag big enough to carry a puppy
You
out.
just
Is what
smuggle a
I
puppy
need.
home.
That's what I'm going to do.
We love that. Getting to meet some leaders that I've been following for a while. Rocky Howard's here.
Rocky's my homie.
Yeah, John Velastelika's here. So like all of the big influencers and thought leaders within this space, and of course, obviously, getting to spend time with my team.
It's exciting, right?
But it's super fun.
Well, awesome. Where can folks find you guys? Where can they connect? Where can they learn more?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Natasha Villani. Feel free to hit me up.
Same, Christina Navarro.
I want to thank our friends over at Tubi. Thanks our friends over at Greenhouse. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.